we've got a Black History map. So we did a map because it's easier to carry around, and obviously it has less information in the book, but on the other side, there are 50 different places in London that you can go and see about, to find out about Black history, and Hackney is one of them. But this is some Black history about Hackney, and I know that people in here don't actually know some of this, so I'm going to give you some stuff. So we're going to start with the Pan-Africanist, the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Has anyone ever heard of him? Yes. Great. He famously said, "A people without the knowledge of their history, origin and culture is like a tree without roots." Now, knowing our history is very important if we're to be strongly rooted in who we are, our values and our culture. There's a saying that goes, if you do not stand for something, you will fall for anything. Now, as a people, we need to be well versed in our heritage for us to develop and sustain strong roots by which to stand. It's a big white building based in front of St Augustine's Tower, just opposite Marks and Spencer's in Mare Street. Later it became a Midland Bank, and now I think it's a bar. Yeah? Thomas J. Price, titled
Warm Shores.
Thank you, Warm Shores. It was the second piece of artwork launched to honour the Windrush generation, and is strongly inspired by the local community of Hackney. Like Veronica Ryan's Fruits, it draws strongly from the local community, but in its own different and unique way. The amazing background and story to this piece of artwork is that to make the sculptures, Price invited 30 multi-generational residents who ranged in ages between 20 to 91 years old to be digitally photographed with a 3D scanning device. Composites of these images were then used to create the final artwork. And the artworks are two 9-foot figures, male and female, cast in bronze. The figures are fictional figures which aren't tied to any one individual, but tap into the broader legacy of those who arrived on the Empire Windrush 75 years ago. Does everyone know that this year is the 75th anniversary of the Empire Windrush ship arriving here? If you don't, you're going to see an awful lot about it this year, because this year is pure celebration. Yeah, I came in 1965 from Dominica. I've been here ever since. Okay, unlike most sculptures, these two sculptures are not raised up on plinths. A deliberate and conscious decision to bring them closer to the people. Now, Price intended his art pieces to be a lasting statement about the immense contribution the Windrush generation made to this country by creating a visibility and value of the Windrush generation in a way that places emphasis on their humanity. So to describe it eloquently, in its depiction of Black history, Price's powerful artwork is not pricey, it is priceless. Okay, now we're going to move on to something a lot more my scene. So what goes through your mind if I say some of these names? All Nations, Oasis, Night Moves. Yeah, I see a couple of people dancing. Okay, now these are just some of the names of past nightclubs that were famous in Hackney. People used to come from miles, and I mean up north, they'd come down to London to dance in these clubs. Yeah, they were so hip. And Hackney has a very rich history of nightlife and entertainment. For instance, Dalston was always an important transport and shopping centre in Hackney's history. For those that may not be aware, at one time it was also an important entertainment centre with about 4 or 5 cinemas within a radius of about half a mile, and I'm guessing the mileage. The Dalston Theatre, which was essentially a former music hall, later became the Four Aces Blues Club, and even later, still, it became the Labyrinth nightclub. Does anyone remember the Labyrinth? Okay. Now, clubs and music are very important to some people's way of life. A vast majority of young Black people make their first meaningful memories during their nights out. However, Black people in the 1960s and 70s weren't welcomed at nightclubs. So house parties were really the only safe havens for Black people to have fun during that time. But as time moved moved on into the late 1970s to 1990s, there was a thriving clubbing and lifestyle scene as a result of a growing and emerging second and third generation of black Britons, predominantly in London and throughout the UK. Under Margaret Thatcher's government, there was the early formation of an emerging black middle class who was successful and entrepreneurial, can hardly say that word, which was reflected in the new buppies culture. Does everybody remember yuppies? Well, we had buppies in the black community. Hackney was no exception to this budding culture and success. The Four Aces Club was set up in 1966 in Highbury Grove by the Jamaican music producer Charlie Collins, who was nicknamed Sir Collins, and Newton Dunbar, to provide a live music venue catering for people from the Caribbean. The club quickly grew and they had to find a new space to accommodate the growing clientele. They found the old Dawson Theatre in Dawson Lane and turned it into the new Four Aces nightclub. It was a pioneer in music and recreational space. This was one of the first clubs to play black music on a regular basis. Well, when I was a child going to de Beauvoir school, every Saturday my mother would take me to de Beauvoir Market, pulling that stupid trolley thing. And as a kid, that is so embarrassing. And your mum's got that trolley on wheels and you're thinking, don't let me see anyone I know. You know? So, Ridley Road Market is a place that perfectly exemplifies a diverse community and illustrates African and Caribbean stories going back over 50 years. It is also a place where families of different cultures and backgrounds have gone shopping together since time immemorial. One local resident described it as a place where she goes to feel free and just be herself. The atmosphere of Ridley Road Market in Dalston has also been described as always being musical, edgy, electrifying and booming with life. So some people obviously like that atmosphere. The market encapsulates East London's rich history of diversity and is fortified with a vast amount of African and Caribbean stories and culture. It has a breathtakingly authentic and strong sense of multicultural community. Ridley Road Market is also a place where people of African and Caribbean heritage go to buy items that remind them of home, because when they first arrived, there was no such thing as soursop, breadfruit, etc., etc. You know, even mangoes were hard to find. Even bananas were difficult. And pineapples were almost impossible. You know, so they went there just to see what they could get, and that market would bring in items from the Caribbean, so they could feel a bit more at home. Now, Ridley Road Market is a place that wonderfully represents the wide variety of things that Hackney has to offer. Despite this road's great significance to people of different cultures, though, it is presently under threat from rapid gentrification. The council recently purchased a property in the street to stop it from being turned into flats. They have now redeveloped this building to include toilets and other amenities that the market had been lacking, which has benefited the traders. Today, it continues to serve the locals and visitors as a market rich and bursting with important black history and stories. And finally, let's move on to discuss the now infamous Centerprise Bookshop. Now, Centerprise Bookshop was a hub of intellectual activity in the 1970s and 1980s. It was a cross-cultural space which had projects involving mixed groupings of men and women of different race. It was established as a bookshop and cafe in Dawson Lane in 1971. Did anyone know that that's where it started? In Dawson Lane? Yeah? Did anyone actually go to it? Yes! We have one person who went. At the time, there were no independent bookshops in the borough. Its key theme was cultural diversity. It also served as a meeting point for organisations and writers' groups from all over East London. It was part of a much wider community arts movement, along with other establishments such as Freeform, Hoxton Hall, and Chaps Palace, and others. Now, just to tell you about Chaps Palace, I used to be a stand-up comedian years ago. And guess where I used to perform? I went down a storm there. It was great. I didn't sort of say it for too long because I didn't go down a storm anywhere else. So, where where are we? Now, Centerprise was a magical place that championed multiculturalism and popular creativity. It hosted numerous ideas, values, and ideologies, I can't even say this word, ideologies, under one roof. At its prime, Centerprise Bookshop housed a coffee bar and ran various youth activities such as chess clubs and drama clubs. It also had a reading project which taught adult literacy, as well as a publishing project and legal advice centre. Drugs and bad social vibes and activities were not tolerated. Centerprise also offered educational support to the local children of Hackney. It championed a vast amount of African and Caribbean literature and history and hosted several community workshops. Emmanuel Amiavor, who was the last director of Centerprise, went on to set up Word Power, and today he still sells African and Caribbean history books. Word Power is one of Europe's biggest black literature festivals and book fair, and is still held every year in Walthamstow. So if you didn't know that, you can go to it. It's still there, and you get loads and loads of black literature, black books. It's got all kinds of things to do with, black history. Unfortunately, it faced many challenges, and it eventually started to collapse from its past glory as a result. This was worsened by its having moved to Kingsland High Street, because that resulted in the bookshop becoming more formal and bureaucratic. As fate and possibly misunderstandings with Hackney Council would have it, Centerprise was subsequently threatened with closure after the council raised its rent from a peppercorn rent of £520 a year to a drastic charge of £37,000 a year. That's a hell of a hike. The bookshop at first offered them £9,000 per year and then £12,000. However, the council did not accept any of the offers. An online petition was set up and signed by over 1,600 people, and another in-store petition was signed by 2,000 people to try to persuade the council to keep the bookshop open. The petition claimed the council were attempting to stunt the growth, education, opportunities and talents of the attendees by closing it down. However, despite the opinions and pleas of its residents, the council proceeded to close the bookshop, bringing to an end to the glory of an incredible landmark institution that had been in existence for 42 years. Despite its brutally cold demise, Centerprise, as an institution, faithfully served the borough of Hackney and positively impacted and empowered many black people during its existence. By the remarkable duration of its lifespan, it also showed that black people and other minorities are extremely gifted in intellectual capacity and equally dedicated to the pursuit of education and enlightenment. It is reported that the people that were involved in its operation during the 1970s recall being told at the time that a bookshop would never succeed in the East End because East End people don't read. However, they also recall that they proved their critics wrong because the bookshop lasted over 40 years and educated and involved the local community. We should therefore be proud of what our community was able to achieve through the creation, development and subsistence of a powerful local bookshop that stood the test of time against all odds. And most importantly, a bookshop that proved beyond doubt that East End people do read. So, to conclude, the London Borough of Hackney has a powerful black and ethnic minority history that is not hidden. The majority of the borough know where the Hackney Empire is, even if they don't know about the 291 Club. They know where Ridley Road Market is, because most people still shop there. They can see and touch the sculptures by Veronica Ryan and Thomas J. Price. All these aspects bring together the people who live in the borough, whose roots run deep and continue to grow. Thank you very much.